Greetings, GameCola faithful, and welcome back to more Dragon Warrior 2. I'm James.
I'm Jetty.
I'm Nathaniel.
And I'm John. Oh my, wait, what am I doing here?
What are you doing here?
I guess I just saw the Discord recording. I'm I decided to hop in, and I'm part of this now.
Well, welcome back.
It sounds like you're not quite prepared, John, but it's okay. Good luck. We're all counting on you.
Yeah, now tell us what we did last time.
Yep.
Yes, please.
Me?
Yes,
Yeah, you!
You're the special
on.
guest
Come on.
who's just joined us. So we expect you to know what we did last episode.
Naturally, you're the most qualified of anyone here to tell about that.
Yes. Last time you jumped off a mountain and you found a sea cave.
Close
Right,
enough.
James?
I'll buy
Okay.
it. Are we going to cast the stop spell equivalent? on
Oh,
these?
that's right. I forgot that these guys. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
right. These guys have
Insta-kill.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. They can cast defeat.
I mean, we can also cast the permanently stop every spell they'll ever cast spell by blowing them up. That works too.
Yep, I am kind of partial to that. I feel like this has been discussed. I may have made this joke on a previous episode of like Dragon Warrior or something like that, but I don't get tired of it, which is, and I think it's partially, I'm thinking of this because I was just listening to GameCola podcast 181 recently, the tactical podcast, which is that my favorite tactic in tactical games is to lower the enemy's HP to 0.
That does seem to be the most beneficial tactic.
that's the tactic I vote because my sisters and I, when we're talking about strategies in Pokemon games, I forgot to cast stop spell again, silly me. We're saying, okay, well, do you ever lower the enemy's agility or cause them, lower their speed or lower their defense? And my sisters would say, the only stat I care about lowering is lowering their HP stat to 0. So that's where I get that from. I'm sure that's a joke made by many people, but...
Also, I'm sure this has been brought up many times, but those bats are butt naked.
Yep, they are very much not gold.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. They're like slightly pink.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, the butt of a baboon. Imagine that throughout the entire body, and it's a bat.
I guess that is true. Like the weird blue and red colors, right?
Yeah, I don't know the science behind it, nor am I going to pretend to, but it's
I don't think
weird.
anyone does.
There's an actually very elaborate 5-page science document about this enemy alone. You should read it sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Why am I
Just not while we're
surprised?
recording, because that wouldn't be good content. Just trust us.
I'm just, well...
Yes,
Joe's
because we
not
know
here,
about
so-
content.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We are the absolute masters of producing interesting and engaging content. Speaking of interesting and engaging content, the last grinding session to get the party 1 additional level across the board only lasted half an hour because the enemies in this area, while they are kind of a pain to deal with, do give lots of experience. And in the meantime, or not in the meantime, but as a result, Illy learned Step Guard, of all things, which is an interesting one. I'm not sure how I feel about the design of our magic casters just slowly getting each other's spells, especially this late into the game where one spellcaster is probably working on, doing things like heal. Like Illith has been our healer for quite some time, so it feels bizarre to suddenly have a lot of Orpheo's abilities appearing on her. Even if there is some modicum of usefulness to it, it doesn't. I wish I simultaneously wish things were more specialized, but also that there was just more use for a lot of these spells, because you know what I wish? I wish that we could upgrade the existing spells, because by this point in the game, we are never going to cast the base fire level spell. There's no reason to. And I feel like...
I think that's part of the issue here, is that we have gotten some of these spells far later than we really should have.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know, I do find it interesting, some of the strategies in terms of game development for, like, how you lay out, effect versus cost. Because, for example, Final Fantasy, it is very expensive to cast the higher level healing spells, but it is very cheap to cast the lowest level ones, right? That, like, in comparison to their effect, they're very expensive, because outside...
I mean, we might as well just heal while we're 2 steps from the monolith, right?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, well, what if we encounter an enemy on those last couple of steps?
Yeah.
The amount of times that's happened to me in Final Fantasy IV, I swear.
Yeah, but you can see, you know what doesn't happen to you, I bet, in Final Fantasy IV, which is immediately when you transition to the world map, it instantly engages you in battle, because the random check to see if you start a random battle encounter in this game happens, it includes the tick when you load onto the world map, not just when you take your first step. So you can leave a town and immediately be assaulted with enemies.
This town is so unsafe. There's monsters right outside.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it speaks well to the town guards, I suppose. They've been keeping them at bay, or maybe really, there's an invasion happening at that moment, and they need us to take care of it as we're on our way out. They're just like, oh, hey, by the way, there's a bunch of monsters at the gate. Would you mind taking care of those?
How intimidating are these guards that they walk up to you even if you're at a fully leveled party? The best weapons ever, and then they still don't bother with attacking the guards of this town if they're just right there. I don't know. I do have to say, I think I also said this last episode, I really like the Blizzard, this enemy design. I think that's a really neat...
I think both of these are pretty good. Like, the giant is very readable, right? In comparison to, we were discussing, like, what was it, the centipede or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the megapede. That, like, some of the monsters, we were kind of saying, like, oh, I wonder if some of them were leftovers that, like, didn't make it into the first game.
Yes. Which, the more I think about it, I feel like that seems very plausible. And, like, a lot of these designs, some of the, like the giant design, that is very clearly, okay, this is not the way I want to go to get to the castle. I have to go up and around. To me, the giant design is very indicative of, like, Akira Toriyama. Like, you can feel, like, how that would be in the original, like, drawing before it's been sort of transcribed into sprite work. But the centipede or whatever it is, and those kinds of enemies, like the ants, like, there's nothing distinctive of any specific art style about them. And I feel like that's a quality that a lot of the really good Dragon Warrior enemies have. That's a lot of the enemies in this game seem to have been lacking up to this point.
So actually, I guess...
Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought. On different tangent then.
Oh no! What?
Wow!
Oh,
I didn't know these guys had the defeat spell. Dang!
That's what DE stands for.
Yeah, we're defeated. We're defeated. Yeah. Oh, actually, speaking of which, we did actually have. I should, since we do this, tick up that death counter one more time, because GameCola was hit with a defeat spell during the grinding session, and I am counting that. Which I think is the first GameCola death in a long time.
Probably. wonder how many enemies from this game do not show up in later games. Because I feel like, when was the last time I saw an ant?
Oh,
Like,
there
some of
goes
these-
ALS2. Wow.
Oh, no.
Well, that's okay. We just saved,
Yeah.
and at this point, we
Well,
have
also,
no need
we're
for
like,
gold,
what, steps
so-
away?
Yeah. Ouch.
Oh yeah, because we can't teleport. I don't think
Just
we're
a few
gonna
mountains.
make it.
Oh dear.
We don't have a wing anymore.
I'm gonna. Phew.
Could have done that the whole time. Okay.
Save.
Yeah,
Sorry,
even
so
back-
Nathaniel, what were you going to say?
Oh, okay. So we touched on characters getting the same spells as other characters, and that is one of my largest complaints with with certain RPGs. I think one of the quickest ways that you can make an RPG boring is to allow every character to have the same abilities as everybody else.
Oh, there we
I
go,
think there's
John.
There
There
we
it
go.
happened.
It was right on the bridge too.
Yep, well, we just spawn into the world. Boom. There's a guy right here.
A Cyclops guarding the overworld.
Yep. Ay, ay, ay. But you were
Because
saying,
I don't
Nathaniel?
mind. Yeah, so I don't mind having job classes where you can learn this and that, and I don't mind having some overlap in everybody's got a heal spell, or a couple people have a heal spell, that kind of thing. But when it's I remember Final Fantasy VIII was like this. I'm playing Dragon Quest VI, and that's very much like that right now, where you can just eventually know all of the exact same spells and abilities that everybody else has, and there is nothing to distinguish you aside from like a limit break, maybe, and even like your base stats start to stop mattering after a point. So anytime that happens in a game, that's one of the surefire ways to just make combat kind of dull, because I like it when the characters are different and you really have to pay attention to who's well suited for this and who's well suited for that.
Yeah,
plus it really defeats the purpose of like having the rest of the party members too, because even in like FF7 and whatnot, it's like you could just stick with having the 3 party members throughout the entire thing, and then in my playthrough, I like never ended up using Barrett or Red 13 or anyone else, because you can just give everyone like a multitude of abilities, but like little to no like penalties for it.
and I was watching a video on the Pokemon games recently. It was actually a Pokemon. It's a YouTuber that I wasn't aware of previously, but they and a team of the people were making ROM hacks for the first 3 generations of Pokemon games to try and sort of improve them and rebalance them. Without like adding new things such as moves or Pokemon from later games, because a lot of Pokemon ROM hacks tend to add mechanics or Pokemon or abilities from later games, and so they wanted to improve the games and maybe fix some of the bugs or add maybe enhance even the story in a few cases, but doing so in a way that preserved the identity of those games. And I think that's pretty interesting, but that's kind of a side tangent. But what they mentioned is that the crux of Pokemon games is the moves, and because each Pokemon has its own stats, but they don't really mean anything because it's those stats paired with specific move sets that really makes them useful and makes them interesting and allows you to design teams around them. And so I definitely agree with what I'm sorry, this is a very complex thought I'm trying to reason through while also trying to press buttons.
That's all right. I'll play for you while you're thinking.
Okay, here you go.
No, I've
Spell,
been doing
come on.
entirely. I'm trying. I'm
Oh, there we go.
pushing buttons here that's not doing anything.
Okay, there
Sorry.
we go. Sorry,
Just hopping out of bed for you.
I accidentally unplugged the controller. I reached too far. The end of the cable came out. I put it back in.
No, I've been doing entirely too much mindless grinding. So, as of last night, hooray, I finally beat Dragon Quest VI DS.
Hooray!
And
Clap,
I've
clap, clap.
kind of half complained about it here and there, but I think officially it is the second worst RPG I've ever played. If not, it's really, really close with this one, like tied. And there are some good parts to it, but some of the bad parts just completely ruin the experience for me. One of many things, I've now logged over 70 hours on the game, at least 30 of which were pure grinding.
Ooh. You know,
Fun.
it'll be interesting
and I
to
know
see.
some of this was self-inflicted because you give me a lot of job classes. I can be a warrior, a monster master, a gadabout, etc. And I want to learn some of these abilities to give them to my characters. I went up against the final boss. At that point, I was so tired that I just followed a walkthrough for the final boss. And the walkthrough was saying, oh yeah, use this spell, this spell, this spell, this spell. And I'm like, I don't have any of those. Have I not gotten enough job ranks to be able to unlock any of those? So I'm like, okay, I'm doing fine. I'm following your walkthrough. And the walkthrough's like, kill the left hand, the left hand, the left hand. It's the one that's on the right side. Kill the left hand. And I do that, and it immediately gets resurrected, and then I die. And I'm like, I'm not following this walkthrough anymore. So I went back, and I'm like, okay, I am going to just grind for job levels. So you can assign a job to your characters, and then every X number of battles, you rank up in that job. And it's anywhere from like 10 or 15 battles to, hey, we got to level up.
Yep, we sure did.
On that same subject.
More glorious hips.
Glorious hips.
Glorious hips.
So it's like 10, 15 battles to like 35 battles, but what they don't tell you is after a certain point, certain areas stop counting toward job experience because you've leveled up too much.
Oh, that
so
sucks.
you need to just know where those areas are and not grind in them anymore after a fashion. So finding a spot that was very quick and efficient to grind in and not completely mind-numbing was, took a little bit of time for me to work that out. But I'm getting all these all these ranks and stuff, and then I finally go and fight the final boss, and I defeat the final boss, and everything's great. And then there's post-game content, and I'm looking at the walkthrough because again, I don't want to give this game any more time than I already have. And the walkthrough says, oh yeah, you need to level somebody up to at least rank 5 in every single one of the available jobs, one of which only unlocks in the post-game. So I went and did more grinding in the post-game. It sort of became mindless after a while. It's like,
oh my god.
Yeah, that sounds atrocious, but also again, you were saying some of it is self-inflicted because I don't want to dog on you for it because it's like I don't want to give this game any more time than it deserves. Also I'm like, let me go do this specific accomplishment for post-game content, which is specifically post-game after I have beaten the game.
Well, here's the thing. When I put this game down, I am never coming back to it again.
Okay.
So and it's not really sunk cost fallacy here because I was planning on seeing the post-game content this whole time. And it's not that much of a hassle at this point. Like I just opened in one session. I just opened the last secret dungeon.
Okay.
So we are making progress. I'm not doing the endless grinding anymore. And it kind of fell into just a rhythm of, okay, I'm listening to new music while I am playing this. I am listening to a podcast for the first time in ages while I am doing this. I am sitting with a movie in the background that I'm not entirely invested in while I'm doing this. So it's not like I've been spending all of my time, like for a while I definitely was, but it was just sort of, here is my goal. When I'm done with the grinding, when I get like one of these characters who's maxed out everything or gotten close enough to max, or I get absolutely sick of this, I'll go fight the final boss, see how that goes. Because also it's a long fight. That's a long way to the final boss. I'm like, I don't want to go through all this a second time or a third time.
Yeah.
If I'm not high enough level, don't have all the right skills to do it.
Forgive me if you've answered this on a previous episode. Or whatnot. You just said it was the third worst RPG you've played?
Second or third. It's very close neck and neck with this game that we're currently playing that I've been complaining about for many, many episodes now. I'm sorry.
Aww. But what's the other one then?
Fantasy Star 2.
Yeah.
They started with a solid 3 out of 5 star game for me that I think was very competent for a first attempt at a game series and one of the earliest RPGs as we know it, turn-based Dragon Warrior style RPG. It was good. It was solid. I liked it. And then the second one made all sorts of incredibly baffling design decisions that I would buy if it was the first game in the series and no one had ever made an RPG before. But this is a sequel. we've had more experience just looking around at other games at this point to not make these terrible mistakes.
Okay, so, and as a Dragon Quest newbie, I think the only game I have from Dragon Quest is 8 on the PS2, and I got that for collection purposes, but I haven't played it yet. But as a newbie to this series, what would be like my perfect place to start?
I mean, if you don't mind old games with very basic gameplay, 1 is a good place to start. Okay. Otherwise, I think it really just depends on what you have access to. I've heard a lot of good things about 11, and I've heard good things about most of the games in the series. Like, you can kind of jump in anywhere because all the stories are self-contained, even if some of the games do relate back to other games. So you really could just start anywhere at whatever's accessible to you, whatever sounds interesting to you or looks interesting.
Yeah,
because I know we probably discussed this on the other episode too, with the
there goes GameCola.
Whoa! Wow, they killed a website.
What?
Yep. Oh no!
The website's down.
GameCola's worst Easter.
Darn it!
Oh yeah. Well, when is Easter? Because Easter hasn't happened yet.
It's in
but
like
it will
a
be
week.
happening, but will it have happened?
Change?
Or will it have happened?
Oh no!
By the time this gets released.
No, this episode's probably coming out. Well, yeah, this is almost definitely coming out after Easter. I pressed the wrong button. Had Illith attack. But I was gonna say, John, as far as
no, it didn't.
I was gonna say, John, as far as like places to start, I definitely agree with Nathaniel that like pretty much any. I mean, clearly, I think we don't really recommend 6. And I don't know if I would actually recommend starting with 2. 2 is kind of rough. Like even
Two's
though
also kind of a weird place to start as well, just gameplay wise, narrative wise.
Yeah.
Like it still falls within the self-contained enough, but I feel like of all of the games, it's one of the weirdest places to jump in.
Yeah, and it's also just it's kind of a black sheep of the series in a way, as far as I'm concerned. Like I'm not disliking it as much as I was worried I would. I don't think it's a horrible game. I think this game gets a worse rep than it deserves, but I don't think it is as good as the first game. I think it makes some cool attempts at improvements, but it kind of stumbles in a few of the regards.
I've definitely softened on it a little bit because of this playthrough. A lot of that's to do with the writing. The writing is a lot better than I remember it being. Like, this is a very solid NES RPG in terms of writing. And the other thing that I'm blanking on. And I'm pretty sure your stats are slightly different than my stats were, like we've discussed before, because of how you named your character. And I think that is probably it, and maybe I'm just making stuff up and you've just been luckier than I ever was playing this game, but I do feel like this is going more smoothly than my playthrough did, which I know we've talked about before. So I am softening my opinion on this. Just for brevity and completion's sake, the things that I have issues with about Dragon Quest VI, I don't like the characters, any of the characters. I don't like the story. The overworlds are obnoxious to navigate. It's one of the most irritating places just to get around of any RPG I've played. And all of the cool stuff that makes the game interesting is so end-loaded. The very, very beginning of the game is so restrictive. There's like no choice, no freedom, and then all of a sudden it opens up way too far, way too late.
Oh no!
Wow, I forgot
utterly
that
destroyed.
that was a thing that they could do. Well, I'm glad I just saved. Ouch. Yeah,
all you did was lose half your money. So.
All right. Oh man.
I mean, I'm assuming we're past the point of needing money.
Yeah, we are.
Out of
Yeah,
curiosity.
Elden Ring, this is the toughest RPG of our time.
Yeah, we had 14K earlier. Oh man, that was
Because
brutal.
we do have a shield for everyone, right?
I don't think GameCola has a shield.
The fancy shield.
Yeah, the shield of.
Yeah.
I don't believe he has a shield of strength.
Oh, okay, well that's something we should definitely fix. So maybe actually reload your save.
Yeah. Oh,
Because that was what 28,000 something like that.
21,000. I want to say. I think it's yeah. So we were probably close to it. Oh, John, what I was gonna say is I think that Dragon Quest 11 would be a good place to start. I also highly recommend Dragon Quest 8 as a starting point. It's Dragon Quest 8 is my favorite game in the series. I've played 11, and I really like that. But in terms of if I had the choice to go back to a previous Dragon Quest game and like replay it, which like with 100+ hour JRPGs is not something I do very often or that I even want to do very often. I have replayed Dragon Quest 8 several times. I think I just about a year ago I finished I think my second or third playthrough of the game. Now granted that's third playthrough in like the 15+ years we've owned the game, but mind you, that's more than that is more than I replay most big JRPGs.
I had a wild thought. Why don't we just beat monsters up until we've got the 21 to get the shield?
Mm-hmm.
Go get the shield, and then make a serious attempt on the castle of run from all the enemies on the overworld, and then start to fight stuff when we're in the castle.
Oh, but the problem is, if we need to go back and get the shield, we have to leave and go back through the entire cave just to return here.
Although that's true, we do know how to navigate the cave now. And every little bit of defense and automatic healing without needing to spend MP is going to give us an edge.
Yeah.
And you'll have a new fancy field.
Yeah, okay, so 14, so just under 15,000 gold. All right, yeah, that might be worth a shot. Although, really, like the
Also,
other issue.
We're also under-leveled currently to take on the final boss, based on what we've read in walkthroughs and such, that we're a little under-leveled. So if we need to be fighting monsters more anyhow, might as well do it on the way to and from somewhere that's going to give us more of an edge.
Yeah. Although I do have to say, these enemies here are actually pretty darn good for grinding just because of the amount of experience that they drop
Sure.
on average. They're dropping anywhere between like 800, 900 to like 1,000 or even 1,500 in some cases per battle, which means that leveling up happens much more quickly in this area than in any of the previous areas when our enemies are dropping maybe 200 or 300 or 400 experience per battle.
Sure, but it's not nothing.
Yeah. So there's definitely some trade-offs to be considered there. I think it would be cool
I also
though
like
to
the snow.
yeah, and yeah, oh yeah, it is very pretty. But the other thing is that right now a lot of our deaths are not coming from being whittled down, although we are definitely running out of HP at quite a rate. You know, these enemies like these giants are definitely dealing lots of damage. But a lot of our deaths have been from the defeat spell, which having a shield of strength isn't going to help us against that.
True,
and
but
GameCola
there is the entire castle to consider.
That is true, but at the same time, considering that GameCola, by far and away does the most damage to enemies. Like, he's doing triple-digit damage now to some of these enemies, as opposed to even our most powerful spells. So, you know, again, where sometimes the best tactic in battle can be just prevent the enemies from casting spells permanently by just taking them out as quickly as possible. Like, GameCola is kind of our absolute, he's not even a glass cannon, he's just the most powerful character on the team in terms of survivability and damage dealing. So yeah, I don't mean that to like discount your strategy, because I know that you put a lot of thought into these decisions, and I tend to be someone who does less of that. I've noticed it surprises me, and again, maybe that's again just because, again, playing through, I'm saying again a lot, blah 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 blah, again, but probably has to do somewhat with because I'm playing the game, and so I have to split my thought process. But even as I've been growing up, I think I tended to not put quite so much thought into everything I did, and I think that it's definitely it's a different approach, and I'm trying to get used to thinking about things that way sometimes.
Well, and we can always change paths, you know. We can see how it goes. We can go in. We might take on the final boss on the first try. Or we might be like, no, actually, we should have gone back and gotten the shield. Or, you know, maybe we'll get surprised and just get a whole bunch of levels and the shield's irrelevant. You know, there's a lot of ways this can pan out, so. Yeah, because we can just see as we go. Yeah, the real unfortunate thing is that the shield can't be used to heal outside of battle. It's effectively a heal more cast in battle and only in battle. And I noticed that a lot of the healing I'm doing tends to be outside of battle. So And there are ways that you can kind of game that. Like, if you know roughly how much HP an enemy has left and there's just 1 HP, and there's no risk of it immediately, like, destroying your party with a spell, you might be able to get away with, okay, this turn GameCola is going to use the shield, hopefully get a heal, and then maybe Orf will deal the final blow after that. Mm-hmm. But that's always a gamble. Yeah. All right, stop spell, please. No. I will say, last thing I'll say about Dragon Quest VI, unless somebody brings it up. Dragon Quest VI! The grinding sessions, part of it was just, I'm on autopilot now, I have a goal, and I'm just going to keep going until I stop, even if I could reasonably stop earlier than this and take on the boss.
What?
Whoa.
Wow.
They weren't even low on HP.
Yeah, there goes our our discussions about like, oh, don't let it be the last one, don't let it get down to a little. Yeah, like it's just completely arbitrary.
There goes the last 5 to 6 minutes.
The other thing in favor of getting the shield is then we really truly don't need to worry about gold again.
Yeah.
Like, if we're even entertaining the thought of spending anything anymore, then
nothing
it's
left in this world for us.
Yeah. Did we get the Falcon Sword?
Oh, the Falcon. Honestly, I would be more inclined to get the Falcon Sword for GameCola.
I completely forgot we had that on the list.
Yep, well, that's okay. So did I.
Can we afford that? I forget what that costs. And also,
I think it's 24,800.
Okay. And then there's the question of, will selling our equipment get us notably closer? Like, sell the sword that we have to buy the new sword. Anyways, to finally finish this thought about Dragon Quest VI, the whole grinding thing was probably the most fun I had the entire game.
Really?
And that's really sad.
And is that just
But-
because you were able to like listen to some music or something while you were?
Well, no, I mean, just in terms of gameplay, I felt like I was doing something worthwhile for the first time in the game. Because so many of the challenges are do this because you can, not because there's really a deeply compelling story reason to, or because, oh, look, there's a really big treasure chest over there. I want to see what's in it. Let me go through the dungeon to get it. You know, there wasn't a lot of incentive to do anything in the game. And because I was not engaged in the story, because I did not like the characters, because of the way the story was told, etc., etc. So this was the first time in the game where it felt like I had a goal that I wanted to work toward. That wasn't just finish the game and play something else. And I could feel my characters getting stronger because they were unlocking new abilities that I then started using in combat to speed up the grinding process. You get some really cool spells and abilities that affect all of the enemies on screen by the end of it. And oddly enough, all of them cost 0 MP, which is broken. Like, there is one singular ability that I am aware of that can turn them back on you and make them a problem, but the average enemy does not have that. So it's really just free massive damage on everybody. But yeah, just feeling like I was doing something worthwhile, feeling my characters growing in power, being able to check off, oh, okay, I've mastered the thief, oh, okay, I've mastered the luminary, like, the great, I feel like I'm working towards something, I'm filling out that little checklist. Little dopamine hits make me feel good.
Mm-hmm. I forgot about the attack bots here. Ouch! Ugh.
Hey.
Hey. So, John, we ask every guest this. What are some of your favorite and or least favorite RPGs?
Well, one of my, I think this is gonna be a little sacrilege because it's gonna be like a bit modern, but not too modern. My favorite turn-based RPG is Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That's an
I'm a big fan of that
RPG?
one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a turn-based RPG. It was
Wow.
I think it was it wasn't the first one I played because I played like Pokemon games and whatnot, like my cousin's house. Not thoroughly though, but it was the first one I actually got myself into because the story was so gripping, and it's not just because it was Star Wars. Honestly, the only thing Star Wars like related, like plot-wise, is just the Force and the ability to go to different planets and whatnot.
Yeah, because it's the old Republic. It's a long, long time time ago, before a long, long time ago.
Before action games were invented.
Yeah, no, there's lightsabers, sure, but like there's
lightsabers. There's some of the familiar alien races.
There's, like,
there's planets that
swords.
you've heard of. But yeah, it is so very different.
I just
Yeah,
realized,
there's
why
not
am I
that many
walking back to the
member
cave
bears.
when I could just grind here and then use the warp point to get back out?
But I like that game because the combat is like really easy to figure out. It like explains like roll saves a lot to you, and like essentially it's like I would like to think of it as like if you're really intimidated by like Dungeons and Dragons or whatnot, like you don't know like where to start or like how to get to it. I say like play that game and whatnot to like at least understand the basic rules and structure of how it works. Like
Yeah, because it's a 3D. You're moving around in a 3D space, and it does have mechanics that are very similar to Dungeons and Dragons.
Whoa.
Yeah, and the choice system is like the icing on top of the cake. Because not only do you have like a really good turn-based RPG right in front of you with a good story, you have a really engaging like system of light side and dark side choices that give you the freedom of playing a D&D game where it's like, can I be a nice guy? Can I be a jerk to him? Do I do that? And then it gives you actual consequences where your party members will pull you aside and be like, hey, what the heck was that?
Interesting.
And I enjoy, you've got light side choices, you've got dark side choices, you've just got kind of neutral choices. And the more you shift toward the dark side, the more horrible your character looks.
Yes.
Like, veiny
really?
face and the evil looking eyes, as I recall, and things like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very satisfying RPG on all fronts. Even with like the side characters have good like side stories to them, where they did not need to do that.
The voice acting's good too.
Yeah, no, it's very, yeah, it's very believable, especially if there are some lines you could think like some people are hamming it up and whatnot, and even for like some of the aliens that don't speak English, they basically have like maybe 10 repeat phrases that you start noticing. But but it's a very immersive RPG, even for like if everyone has like the same animations and the same like level structure. It's like, oh, here's dungeon number 35 I have to go through. It's like you're still in for the ride like the whole way through because the story is so gripping. But yeah, that's pretty much my favorite RPG. With the but it's not to say like I've given like Final Fantasy IV a chance. I almost beat it, but then I end up losing my save files, so I'm like,
that's the worst.
Yeah, I got about halfway through Final Fantasy X, and I love the characters in that game, but it's like it's one of those things where especially if the game is like super long, like I tend to just fall off it for a bit and come back to it later. But like I haven't played Final Fantasy X in like maybe 2 years at this point, and so I may get back to it though. I played it on the Switch, but like I really like the characters and I really like the combat system. It's just something about it just made me fall off of it for a while. I think maybe it was just because my ADHD just makes me just go to different games that catch my attention better.
You know,
but
it's been a few years at this point now, but I started playing Final Fantasy IX, was getting into it, was enjoying it. And then I got to the end of one dungeon where it was like, pick this door or pick this door. Oh, you picked the wrong door. There was a treasure chest on the other side, and now you can't ever get it again.
Ouch.
So I'm like, okay, let me just...
Oh my god, defeated.
Let me just reload my save, and then I will do this over again. And the act of doing that wiped my save card.
Oh my god.
Oh gosh, that's right.
So
when did you talk about that? Was that like on a recent episode?
I am positive I talked about this before. Yeah, so that was tragic, and have not gone back to it since. But I'm at a point now where, you know, one of these RPGs, I'll get back to Final Fantasy IX because I did like it. I do want to get back to it.
Oh, not again! You're kidding me! Wow. Good
Aren't you like
grief.
immediately outside of the thing?
Yes, immediately.
Oh, good. But Ilith was the one that needed the experience.
Hey.
Power by 2. Wow, reaction by 10. That's 5 defense points. HP by 9,
Nice.
MP by 2. All right. Yeah,
Let's
we're
go.
2 steps outside of... Oh, great. Fantastic. Wonderful. Amazing.
Save? Yeah. Yeah. Run?
Yeah, maybe.
Why are you fighting? Why would you
Yeah,
fight them?
Why are you fighting?
Why aren't you running?
And this guy's just like, I just saw you 3 seconds ago and you're already dead.
Yep. He's like, what are you doing? Back so soon? Oh my goodness. You know,
oh my gosh.
yeah, he's like,
Captain, it's Wednesday.
it's like, don't you, it's like, back so soon. What do you mean? You live here. You know what kinds of enemies are around. It's like, again, am I like the least qualified? How do these people set up outposts out here in the first place? That means people came here before us. There are so many people who are possibly much more qualified to be the saviors of the realm than
Well,
we are.
James, let me go tell you straight here. When they built that establishment, it was a party of 200 people.
Oh,
There are
I
now
see.
4 people in that building.
Wow. You know what? Thinking about it that way, actually, that's terrifying. But also very interesting. I can appreciate that that reframing. So talking about RPGs, it's funny you were mentioned, you know, that, oh, bless you. You mentioned doing, so you said it was Knights of the Old Republic, is that right?
Yes, and I'm still thinking on my least favorite. Give me a minute.
Yeah. Well, you were saying, you know, it might be good for people who are who feel intimidated by D&D. And it's funny because just prior to this recording session, I actually decided to go ahead and pick up the sort of the player's handbook equivalent of Pathfinder. Because I remember years ago with some roommates in college. We played Pathfinder First Edition, sort of a little homebrew-ish Pathfinder First Edition campaign. I don't really remember too much about how it played mechanics-wise. Again, like
Stop
we were.
spell?
Hmm?
I would go for stop spell if that'll work.
Yeah. But it's interesting to see that they basically, this is like, they had a second edition which came out in 2019, but last year they sort of made what they called a remaster of the rule books, where they incorporated all of the errata that had come out. And we're also re-licensing it under the new, like, open game, you know, the new license, because of the whole debacle with the open game license and Wizards of the Coast. They were like, all right, we want to get away from that, so we're redoing the books to completely separate ourselves from that. But sorry, I want to do stop spell because, again, I'm talking, I'm not paying attention to the outcome of battlefield.
At this point, it didn't work. It didn't work the first turn, so we should just focus on walloping.
Ow!
Wait, I thought you said Nathaniel was playing.
Oh no, we gave up on that a long time ago.
Yeah, the controller didn't reach. It was like the scene from Back to the Future 1 where he's trying to hold the two electrical plugs. Just damn. But yeah, ouch. So I'll be interested to start reading through the player's handbook and see how that system works out. And I know, Jetty, that like you've got, you're doing stuff, you're busy in your own life and everything, but I would love to do another proper like D&D cast, or to whether we want to resume the Secret of Mana show, or if we wanted to do something completely new. Oh, there goes Orfeo. This might be the most deaths in a single episode thus far.
I'm sorry, it's me. I'm a bad omen.
Yeah.
My inexperience with Dragon Quest is rubbing off on you.
Yep, I just wanted to say...
A Dragon Warrior.
I just wanted to say good luck. We're all counting on you.
Run?
I do think,
Yeah.
not only would it be fun to go and wrap up Secret of Mana RPG cast, but also it would be funny.
Mhm.
Since it's been like 3 years.
It's been
or
like
something.
3 years. We're
Do
just
we want to save? Do we want to save and run?
That might have been a smart idea.
Oh yeah.
Ow.
My favorite bit to do with series or whatnot that like we haven't made a video to in like years long is just continue it. Like
To go back and make a new Super Mario Bros. 2
yeah.
level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's
another-
terrible. But we beat the game, didn't we?
Probably.
You can beat it again.
Yeah, that's true.
Just start again.
We just
But
started.
Hang on,
pretend.
Time out.
Yeah.
Who has the revive spell? Didn't we get a revive spell?
Oh, you're right.
Are you kidding?
Oh, it was probably Orfeo.
Oh, it's on the one who's always dead. Right.
Yeah, revive.
Yeah, that sounds
Great.
familiar. Yeah.
See, and this is more like just they did not think things through when they were designing some of the aspects of this game. And I find it fascinating. I was watching, it wasn't exactly a documentary, but it was basically a walkthrough of Dragon Warrior 2. And the narrator, I don't have a citation for their, whatever source they got this from, but they were saying that they actually delayed the release of Dragon Quest 2 in Japan because the game was too difficult. And if that's the case, I shudder to think what the original build of this game was going to be like. And someone in the first episode of the series commented that apparently this game didn't get tested at every point in the game. I'm not sure, again, I haven't heard anything specifically to that effect. I don't know where these bits of information are coming from, but it is fascinating. It would be interesting, makes me wish more retro games had post-mortem discussions and essays or documentaries done on them.
Yeah.
Documentaries. That's a word.
So question, I know that we are rapidly reaching a good point
yeah.
to stop an episode and start a new one.
Oh, so we
So
are.
maybe So maybe we finish this battle, drag our 1 to 2 corpses back to the guy after this inevitably ends badly,
Yep.
and then call it.
And then
I
maybe,
think-
just maybe, I'll think of my least favorite RPG.
What
Boom!
what,
190.
how much money do we have? Oh, 17.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're getting there, right? I feel like this episode was just more grinding.
Yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say, which is hilarious considering we started out talking about how we are good at making engaging content, and the episode
Yeah.
just turned into we're grinding the whole time.
Yep.
Well, join us next time to watch us do better.
Or
Maybe.
more.